you let us know after watching Colorado last night. It's Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. We appreciate you being a part of the show. Colorado, for a little while, it looked as if, Diesel, we were going to get a close game last night. It still was relatively close, but stock up, stock down. Year two of Deion Primetime Sanders, 31-26. Still a close game. However, Colorado did pull away, and then North Dakota State scored in the fourth quarter. Your instant reaction, and then I'll get to mine, Diesel, after seeing Coach Prime in year two last night.
Yeah, it was stock right where I thought it was for Deion. You know, there's the haters who want to say Deion sucks and he doesn't know what he's doing. And it's all flash, and he gets good athletes there because, well, he's a brash person and Colorado has great NIL. And there are those people who say he can't coach. There are those people. I'm not one of those people. I think anybody in this business has to cut their teeth somewhere. He did a fine job at Jackson State. Colorado is probably a 50% higher because we think he can actually be a good coach and he can bring good players here. And it was 50% a publicity stunt. And they were kind of figuring, well, either way we win, right? Either way we raise the profile of Colorado football. I am also not one of those people who has gassed Deion up to the point where I'm thinking, oh, this is the year. After winning, 4 games last year? I'm not saying, oh, they're going to go out there and win 10. I'm not that person. Not at all. They've got some insane talent on the field. We watched Travis Hunter last night just ball out. Absolutely amazing. There were a couple of questionable calls or no unit of scoring. I'm thinking that one kind of swim where he kind of moved the North Dakota State defender into the first row of the end zone. They very easily could have called interference on PI. And the guy is just insanely talented. They've got good players at Colorado, but it takes more than 2 years to bring a program like that back from the brink, back from the depths where it was.
It definitely does. And I think that your illustration on how you view Colorado, I think that's well said. I'll tell you why. I think the worst part of having reaction from the media, Diesel, is the media is going to build it up so that Colorado is so high. And we saw that last year in year one, right? The first 3 games, they were basically untouchable. And then they got brought down to earth by Oregon, and the rest was history in 2023. Last night, I thought Colorado had some really good signs. At times last night, they looked like a really good team. Now, North Dakota State on the other side, they're not, in my opinion, they're not the same North Dakota State team from 3, 4, 5 years ago. They're still really, really, really good. But what North Dakota State was the past few years was elite. I believe those teams would have beaten Prime last night. They were a little more defensive-minded. The new coach at North Dakota State seems like offense is more of a focus for this group with Colorado. I'll tell you this. I think Colorado has the potential to have big plays, beautiful, bright moments against anyone. I like Deion. I'm with you. I don't think he's the savior that has been sent to the world to rule college football, but I also don't think he's a scrub, right? Everyone acts like you have to pick a side. Well, he's either great or he sucks. You don't. You can be somewhere in the middle, and I think that's where I am. I think that's where you are with Deion. Last night, going back to those flashes, you're right. Shedeur Sanders played a great game last night. Other than one interception, he was really good. We know what kind of wide receiver Travis Hunter is. But I'll tell you what I saw last night. I saw Diesel, a guy in Jimmy Horn Jr., who looked like freaking Tyreek Hill Jr. instead of Jimmy Horn Jr. Now, you can say, Cole, a few of those passes across the middle, those guys were wide open. You and Diesel could have caught those balls, and maybe you're right. They were open. But when you can take the top off of a secondary, like Colorado has the ability to do, Diesel, I think with those weapons, I'm not saying they go in 6, 7, 8 games, but they have the big playability to stay in most games they play this year.
Well, you know, we got to look at the 2024 Colorado football schedule and see what they could end up doing this season. I mean, they're not going to beat a whole lot of teams just flat out better than them. Teams that are on par, with them, I think they beat Nebraska next week. I think that's probably a decent chance to win that game. I very much think they could beat Colorado State on the road. Baylor, they could win that game. At UCF, they could win that game. State, probably not. Arizona, probably not. Cincinnati, Texas Tech, very well could win those football games, and then they end with three ranked opponents: Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State. I mean, at least I don't think we're going to see this season out of Colorado what we saw last season out of Colorado, which is start 4-0, get everybody really paying attention and singing your praises, and then disappear for the rest of the season. They're going to have opportunities late in the year, assuming Hunter stays healthy, Hunter stays healthy. They're going to have some opportunities to keep piling up some wins. If this program gets to 6 wins this season, that is a step in the right direction for Colorado football. Almost no other coach taking a job like that, unless it's Dabo Sweeney, Nick Saban comes back to coaching, something like that. Almost no other coach is going to be able to attract the type of talent and on the field and in the coaching ranks as well, because Warren Sapp is there coaching for him, is going to be able to attract that kind of talent to them. So give Prime credit for what he's been able to do. I wonder if he can sustain it, especially when his kid is no longer there. His kids, plural, are no longer there, being another marketing arm and reaching out and DMing players saying, hey, come to Colorado, come play with me.
It's really fascinating. And by the way, I think the echo on the stream is fixed. Thank you guys so much. You guys are awesome. I am on location at Irmo High School. Drew, DB, Madcraft letting us know there was some echoes. The guys are saying we're good now, better on the stream. Let us know. Make sure you can hear Diesel and I both. Again, I'm in Columbia, Irmo, South Carolina. Diesel's in the Ingles Market Studios. So bear with us. Madcraft says, yeah, sounds good now, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Madcraft, Justin, DB. You guys are awesome. Diesel, I've said before, I think Deion's tenure at Colorado will be short-lived. I really do. I think in his DNA, I think he's made for too big of a stage that Colorado can offer. Now, what he's been able to do at Colorado in 2 years, I don't want to discredit that. Jimmy Horn Jr. last night, 7 receptions, 198 yards, 1 touchdown. Jimmy Horn Jr. Diesel averaged 28.3 yards per reception. That is unheard of. 28 yards is what you're averaging. That is Tyreek Hill-esque. That is unheard of. Then they have Travis Hunter. Then they have Wester. They have other guys down the depth chart. Now, their depth may not be as good as some when you talk about SEC programs, but at the top of their roster, they can compete. I don't know that they'll go, 7 wins, talking about the schedule that you brought up earlier, Diesel, but I'll tell you this. I think they can beat Nebraska. Colorado State's down. You and I know that, right? You look down at the end of the schedule. You mentioned that Utah, Kansas, Oklahoma State game. I agree with you. I don't know that there'll be much of a test for Utah. Maybe they can hang in with Kansas. Maybe they can beat Oklahoma State. I just think that eventually, with Deion Sanders in year 2 now, I think that eventually we will see them good enough to knock off someone they're not supposed to knock off. I'm not saying they knock off an Oregon and a Dan Lanning, but you're telling me that it's out of the realm of possibility, not you specifically, Diesel, but are you telling me that it's out of the realm of possibility for them to go beat Kansas this year? I would still take Kansas, but I don't think it's just a given conclusion. I think those guys offensively have the talent to make big plays and hit on big plays and take the top off of any defense.
Well, and they got dance moves, too. Did you see Travis Hunter and the dance moves he was throwing out when he was scoring touchdowns? Impressive across the board. And the fact that he plays so much. He plays on both sides of the football. I'm wondering how many coaches have been in his ear at Colorado, have been telling him, please don't do this. Please take some time off, rest a little bit, be fresh and ready to go. Obviously, it doesn't matter against North Dakota State. You didn't need the rest and recuperation against North Dakota State, while the other team is on the field. But you got to think down the stretch, we're going to see him maybe play a little less defense, a little more offense so that he's not beat up, dishing out the hits and taking the hits. I see 8 winnable games on this schedule. I mean, if you say the 7 games that are against unranked opponents, and one included, of course, is already a win, And then maybe they could get one of those other games, probably Arizona, maybe Kansas. I mean, they're going to impress somebody. They're going to look good in a couple of these games. And especially considering, Cole, the way the defense tightened up in the second half of that football game last night. I mean, they 20 points in the first half and just 6 points in the second half. And that was right down there at the end. Now, I do have to call out the referees who seem to be doing a little home cooking in that game. There was that long. It was like 3rd and long, the last drive for Colorado. North Dakota State had Shadur out of the pocket. He was scrambling. He was trying to find anybody. And the wide receiver recognized it and just hit the brakes and let his defender run right over him. He called it, defensive pass interference. I don't like that call. I thought that bailed Colorado out in a situation where I was really hoping to see North Dakota State get a chance to go down there and maybe win this football game.
Well, the reality of it is, you're right. It wasn't a blowout. North Dakota State showed that they're still a very, very good football team. However, here's the question for you as well as our Tolos. That stands for turn on, leave on. That's what you are. That's what we are. You are our audience. We ask you to turn it on and leave it on every single day. Diesel, how big of a test when you talk about North Dakota State? Because we have to, as radio host in the media, we have to make sure we don't overreact to week 0, week 1 games, right? Just like Georgia Tech, Florida State last week. Yeah, Florida State looked terrible. Could they still have a good season? Sure. Last night, yeah, Colorado beat North Dakota State. But what I mean is, taking that game, Diesel, for what it's worth, North Dakota State's a good team. But in terms of Colorado being able to compete at the highest level, did North Dakota State give us a true measuring stick on how good Colorado was? What was it? No, 31-26. Sorry. Wasn't even 8 points. So North Dakota State, a good team, formidable team. I think they're going to get better as the year goes on. But do they really? Because I think this is an intriguing answer. And I want to hear from you, Tolo, 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Did North Dakota State show us what it would be like for Colorado to go play the best? I don't know that they did. Colorado looked good.
No.
But, again, no disrespect to North Dakota State, Diesel.
Well, they made their hay winning a lot of national championships in a row. North Dakota State was the Alabama of FCS for like the last 10 years or so. And it seems, at the moment at least, like that torch has been passed to the Jackrabbits of South Dakota State. I don't remember off the top of my head who they have, but I know they have a big opponent here in week number 1. But, this could have been a 3-point game, Cole.
Could have been.
We know that a 2-point game, because we know that North Dakota State missed a long field goal there towards the end of the game. Could have made it a tighter football game than it was. It was 5 points. Could have been a 2-point game. They beat the spread. Look, I mean, Colorado at this point, if you want to look at it this way, they are 5 points better than a very good FCS team. And that's all we have. That's all the information we have. True. Very small sample size on these week 1, really until week number 3. This is not what fans do, right? Fans always want to overreact to everything. But, you gotta say, all right, what's my initial reaction? And then let me tamp that down by about 20%, right? Because this first game of the season for a lot of these teams, not everyone comes out of the gate looking elite, firing on all cylinders. Some teams need a little time to get the wheels going. So, I mean, Colorado is 5 points better than a pretty good FCS team, one that, I have no doubt in saying is going to be in the FCS playoffs and very well stands a chance to make a run in the FCS playoffs. One of the better teams out of the Ohio Valley every single year. So, I mean, let's be real what we're talking about here. They are Colorado as a team, as just a collection of football players who are coming in from all over the country, can out-talent a very good FCS program and beat them by 5 points.
Well, at the end of the day, you're right. That's what they did. They out-talented them. Let's go to the text line. 491. This comes from Alex in Fountain Inn. Alex says Deion sucks. I don't agree with that. Texter from the 440 says, give me Notre Dame +3 over Texas A&M. Buckeye Brian, as you know, Diesel, the Upset Picks Challenge brought to you by Ingles is open. 230 says Dion is a bum for throwing the ball with 56 seconds left to pad his son numbers. Bush League says one Tolo. 618 says Colorado played some good teams, but they don't play any great teams. So I don't think they have a shot on every game in their schedule.
So I have a question for the texter who said Dion's a bum who was just trying to pad his son's stats. What makes you think that? Just the fact that he threw the ball in that situation? What specifically? What did Dion say? Did Dion say, I wanted to make sure that Shadur got these stats?
Yeah.
Or are you just making that up, right? A lot of people want to put words and thoughts into somebody's head without having a damn clue of how the person that they're talking about actually thinks and feels. So I got into it. Not got into it. I had a quick exchange back and forth with Rob Brown last night. He had a problem with that very same thing. He had that exact same take. And I want to know what this texter, what is he basing that off of?
It's a fair point.
Specifically.
Yeah.
Specifically. What do you have? Do you have an article? Do you have a link? Do you have a tweet? Do you have a quote? What do you got? Or are you just making it up because you think it sounds good?
And look, if I need to sit back with a drink in my hand and let you and Rob argue it out like you did at the BMW Charity Pro-Am, I can do that. I'm good at that. Texter from the 230 says North Dakota State should have won the game. Will G wants Southern Illinois over BYU, 14 points. Good job, Will G. We got your spread in, or we got your pick in for the upset challenge. To put a bow on it.
We got Buckeye Brian. I think Buckeye Brian has sent his pick in like 3 different times. Buckeye Brian, we got your pick. If you send it in one day, we are diligently copying and pasting all picks. Help us out. Send it in one time and you're good.
To put a bow on the conversation of Colorado, to the texter's point, do they play an elite team this year on the schedule? They don't play an elite team, no. Again, Diesel said it earlier. They have Nebraska, Colorado State, Baylor, UCF, Kansas State, Arizona, Cincinnati, Texas Tech, Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State. Do they play an elite team there? No. However, Kansas is a good team. Utah is a good team. Texas Tech, we'll see. Jury's still out. Cincinnati, kind of the same thing. Kansas State's going to be good. UCF's a winnable game, in my opinion, in Orlando. Baylor, I think Baylor's more of a winnable game than people might recognize. I'm with you, Diesel. I do see them potentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think they could get to 6 wins. I think they could go bowling in 2024. To say they couldn't, I just don't know that really truly tells the story on how much talent Dion has. Here's the problem. So many people base their opinion on Colorado's success from their opinion on Dion. My opinion is, Diesel, and tell me if this doesn't make sense. You need to have separate opinions on Dion and on Colorado football. You can't say Colorado's going to suck just because you don't like Dion. I know that not everybody loves Dion. I like Dion. I'm a Dion fan. I think he's going to be a really good coach one day at a big school, at a big-time school. But that should not affect whether I think Colorado can go win 6 or 7 games in 2024. And for a lot of fans, people do allow that to happen. They do think, oh, well, I'm not a Dion guy. They're not winning 6 games. No chance. And you know what? They're not that good. They didn't play anybody. You have to allow yourself, Diesel, to separate those two, because at the end of the day, they're 2 separate conversations.
See, I think Deion Sanders, for better or worse, is ahead of the curve in the NIL space, in the NIL game. I think he's smart enough to know that if he wants to have really good football teams, he's going to have to hire the best of the best coordinators and assistants around him, right? He probably knows that he is not some elite football mind. Does he know what he's talking about when it comes to football? Yeah, because he played the game for a long time and at a very, very high level. But that's different, right? Not all players can be great coaches. I think Deion Sanders is smart enough to be a decent football coach. But where I think Deion Sanders' talents are going to lie is drawing talent to him.
Yeah.
So you're going to see Deion Sanders get a job at a big-time power school. Maybe the people in Tallahassee get fed up and they move on from Mike Norvell and they hire him.
Yeah.
And then he's able to bring those high-level coordinators and high-level coaches to him. Those guys that have won a lot of games at the G5 level. Guess what? Some Kane Womack type of coach says, "I'll come be your coordinator, Dion." Right? And so he's gonna have that ability someday soon. People fear what they don't know, and they can't get a read on Dion. They can't figure out what it is Dion is about. They can't figure out who it is that he actually is, because he sprinkles in so much flash and flare and debonair and attitude in his day-to-day.
And I don't agree with Madcraft here on the YouTube stream. Madcraft says, I can say Colorado will suck because of Dion, though. Coach has got to coach. It's his shoulders bearing the weight. I totally disagree with that. I just don't think you can say Colorado will suck because of Dion. Madcraft, Colorado's always sucked. Colorado's never been relevant. We have never talked about Colorado on the freaking radio. Have you ever heard a sports radio show before last year talking about Colorado? So to say that Colorado will suck because of Dion, it's not true, because he's brought talent there. He's won games. Like, I know they're not elite, but they have – did you watch the game last night? They have a lot of talent on that field. Dallin Hayden is a good back. Shedeur Sanders, obviously, we know what he is. They still have a little ways to go in the run game. But Jimmy Horn Jr., Travis Hunter, those guys, are you kidding me? They're fantastic. And to say that they'll suck because of Dion, man, I find that disrespectful.
Drew Bailey wants to know our take on the Western Carolina NC State game. I'm glad you asked that question, Drew, because that's what we're going to get to in the very next segment. We'll talk about that game. We'll talk about NC State's struggles, and then I'm going to ask you Gamecocks a question.
Ooh.
If your performance against Old Dominion matched NC State's performance against Western Carolina, you get the win, relatively comfortable. You kind of pull away in the fourth quarter of that game. How would you feel? How would you react? We'll get to that next, right here on 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, and everywhere you are on the free Odyssey app.
Namby-pamby sports takes at the door. Call in if you're man enough.
844 Fan Phone. This is Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
Pedestrian. That's a word that I would use to describe NC State's season opening week 1 performance last night against Western Carolina. 38-21 final score. It's certainly skewed by a 21-point fourth quarter for NC State. They were down going into the fourth quarter of that game, Cole. But it's a game where it always felt like Western Carolina had shot their shot early. They had played phenomenal defense early, and they were going to fizzle down the stretch when you're going up against bigger bodies than you, play after play after play.
Yeah. You know, that game, Diesel, last night, you and I talked about it briefly yesterday on the show. And again, for those watching on the stream wondering, where's Cole? I am at Irmo High School where Burns will be tonight. That's why I'm on location. The NC State Western Carolina game. You look at the final score, 38-21. NC State improves to 1-0 on the season. Diesel, I don't believe that score is indicative of how close that game was. You look at the final stat line, 318 yards for Grayson McCall, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Again, a good stat line. I don't think that stat line's indicative of Grayson McCall last night. Did he put up stats against Western? Yes, he did. However, I may get pushback on this, but I wasn't impressed last night. I wasn't impressed with Grayson McCall, and I wasn't impressed with NC State. I know they pulled away late, but that was uninspiring.
Yeah, I wonder how much of it is Grayson McCall being forced into a new system.
Yeah.
How much of it is Grayson McCall playing under a new head coach?
Sure.
And how much of it is Grayson McCall now going up against some pretty decent talent, even at the FCS level. Now, you look at Western Carolina's schedule from last year, and this very, very deceptive. The fact that they only won, I think, 7 games last year, but they lost 8 of their 11 linemen over the course of the season. Lost. I mean, they were plugging dudes in. They were plugging linebackers in to play on the line last year in 2023, and they still won 7 football games. That's a solid football team that came into Raleigh last night.
Sure.
And yeah, Grayson McCall kind of, he padded his stats by the second half, 26 of 40, 318 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, one of which turned into a touchdown for Western Carolina. I feel like NC State thought they were going to just walk into that game and take it easy against Western Carolina, and they got punched in the mouth, and they were not prepared, and they really couldn't break it open until the end of that game.
I'll tell you this. I agree with what you said. I don't push back on anything. I will say NC State, they're going to have some issues when they play on September the 7th, September the 21st, and probably that's probably about it. Because other than those 2 games, they have a very winnable schedule. But when they play Clemson and they play Tennessee, Diesel, they're going to just have less dudes than the other.
Yeah.
Watching that game last night, again, I had it on the YouTube TV 4 screen. I just didn't see a lot of dudes last night. I just didn't see a lot of playmakers who stepped up. I just don't know that you can say that this team, and maybe some of it's on me for during this offseason. I've talked a lot about this coaching staff and hyped them up to be a contender in the conference, in the ACC, but man, that was an uninspiring performance last night. I think, again, not to overreact, they're still going to win a lot of games because you look at their schedule. After Tennessee, they play La Tech, then Clemson, then they play NIU, Wake Forest, Syracuse, Cal, all back-to-back. They're by Stanford and Duke, and then Georgia Tech and North Carolina. Grayson McCall is going to be fine. Diesel, they're probably going to win 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, heck, they may get close to a 10-win team in 2024, maybe somewhere in that 8 to 10 range. They're not going to lose many games outside of Clemson and Tennessee. So when it all boils down at the end of the season, they're going to have a lot of wins on their schedule. I think they have a favorable game, and I'll tell you this, I think they'll be favorites in most of those games. Again, going back to what I said in the very first segment, I want to make sure I'm not overreacting because I said that about Colorado. I want to make sure I'm not doing the same thing here. Western Carolina, they're no slouch team. They're no pushover. However, maybe back to your point, maybe they did think they could go in there and just run over them, and it didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, you got to certainly give a lot of credit to Kevin Concepcion from NC State. He was phenomenal. He had 3 touchdowns in that game, 121 yards. And again, it's also a little difficult when you're skewing this by so much offensive output for NC State in the fourth quarter. They were just giving up, Western Carolina defenders running into the backfield and stopping plays early. I was blown away by what Western Carolina was able to accomplish in the first half of that game. I mean, they were the better team in the first half of that game. Now, for NC State, this script is going to get flipped. As you just said, it's going to get flipped when they take on Tennessee next week.
Yeah.
Can they do to Tennessee what Western Carolina did to them? Well, given what we saw last night, I'm not sure. I think this could be a really ugly game, and NC State, could be one of those teams that's maybe a victim of their own hype. They're being told, the media is saying, hey, you guys are going to be great. You're bringing in this quarterback who is phenomenal at the Sun Belt level, albeit that he was injured last season. So maybe he's not exactly the Grayson McCall that he used to be. But I think they're going to get boat raced by Tennessee in week number 2.
And I'll tell you this. I know the question you asked was about top 25 teams. I've hyped up Jalen Daniels a lot this year, Diesel, this offseason. I was not impressed with him last night. 148 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 48-3 win for Kansas, but they beat Lindenwood. I don't know if Lindenwood's down the street, take a left at the red light, and it's the Catholic school across the street from the Spinks. I don't know where they're located, but I'm telling you this. I wasn't impressed with Jalen Daniels. Utah, again, Southern Utah, they're no good. Missouri, not bad. They've got some talent, right? They've got some dudes. But top 25 last night wasn't the most inspiring football, right. And I think a lot of it has to do with their opponents.
And, I tweeted this out during the game. What an ugly start for the ACC, and some of their best teams are all looking pretty bad in week 0, week 1 of the football season. Obviously, we know that Florida State lost. SMU struggled against a really bad Nevada, at least a team that was power projected to be a pretty bad Nevada football team. And then NC State struggles, and they're down going into the fourth quarter against an in-state FCS team. I mean, the ACC, they're desperately trying to pull out of this narrative that it's a weaker conference, and they're just finding ways to support it. Now, my question for you, South Carolina Gamecock fans.
I'm ready for this.
If your game against Old Dominion played out similarly to the way that the NC State game did against Western Carolina, what would your reaction be? We asked Chris Phillips about this the other day, and he said, man, if they don't win by 21, a lot of Gamecock fans are going to be mighty angry about this. But I'm here to tell you the truth. You're not as good as NC State is, and Old Dominion is better than Western Carolina. So South Carolina and Old Dominion are closer than Western Carolina and NC State are, at least on paper. Yeah. All the offseason conversation. But if you're breaking in a brand new quarterback in Lenoris Sellers, and you find yourselves in kind of a rock fight for the first 3 quarters, and then you're able to pull away in the fourth by getting a couple of scores. Maybe you have a pick 6 in the fourth quarter. Maybe you just find something, right? And you're able to hold them to a couple 3 and outs, and you score in the fourth quarter. If that's how the Old Dominion game goes down, and you win that game by 17 points, which off the top of your head, Cole, do you remember what the spread is?
Of South Carolina?
Yes.
21
points. Okay, 21 point spread. So you're expecting to win comfortably, but it takes a massive fourth quarter effort to get that comfortable win. How are South Carolina fans reacting to that?
It's a great question. I'll say I don't think they're overjoyed. I don't think they're thrilled. Diesel, last night, that game, okay, let's look at it. Third quarter, it was 17-14. North Carolina State was leading by 3. Branson Adams had a 17-yard run for a touchdown. Western went up 21-17 to end the third quarter, right? North Carolina State was the only team that scored in the fourth quarter. So to answer your question, what if South Carolina – this is not good, but what if Old Dominion, South Carolina tomorrow? Because I think this is what you're asking. What if it's a similar situation where Old Dominion's leading South Carolina 21-17 at the end of the third quarter? Like, that's not good. That's a bad sign. Well,
but if I told you that Lenora Sellers in his as QB1 threw for 3 touchdowns, threw a pick, threw for almost 400 yards, you'd probably say, well, that seems like a pretty good day for a brand new quarterback.
Yeah, I would. It's fascinating because stats are sometimes tricky. I'll tell you this, though, just gut reaction, gut feeling. Diesel, you cannot be losing to Old Dominion tomorrow in the third quarter when the clock hits 0-0-0 to end the third quarter. That can't happen. You just like Clay Hendricks was talking about yesterday with Furman Ole Miss. If a team like Old Dominion just keeps hanging around, that's when the doubt starts creeping in. The longer they hang around, man, that's not good. So to really answer your question, I'd say it's a terrible look. It'd be a terrible performance, not individually statistically for Lenoris, but I just that'd be a little too much, too close for comfort, if you will.
Yeah, see, I look at that and say, hey, get the win, have yourself a performance where you put up a number of yards and a number of touchdowns, get out of there with a win, right? Take your growing pains. Maybe Lenora Sellers is that next coming of you-know-who, and he has just that phenomenal first season as a starter. But that's usually not the way it goes, right? Most players don't just fire out of the gate, all engines blazing.
Yeah.
So if I'm getting a 17-point home win against a game opponent in Old Dominion, and we only have 1 turnover in the ball game, and we're not making stupid procedural penalties, I'm feeling pretty good about myself if I'm a South Carolina Gamecock fan. But we all know fans react far differently from the way you and I react.
Sure. High school football week 1 is here, Diesel. Biggest games tonight. Some of my picks, questions from you, Diesel, as well as questions from our Tolos. All of that coming up. You can text the show 71307. A little high school football week 1 conversation next. Diesel, I have a question for you. How long did it take this morning after I put my week 1 high school predictions out? How long did it take for a local coach or 2 or 3, I'm not going to give you the number, but to reach out to me and what are you doing picking against us? Are you kidding me? Why are you picking against us? How long do you think it took, Diesel?
From the moment you hit send until you got your first message, I was going to say less than an hour.
It was just over.
Minutes.
It was just over an hour.
Wow.
You know, it's fascinating.
Are high school coaches in the upstate that butthurt? Are they that soft?
I think they love it so much that they, for whatever reason, care what I think, right? And we all know what I think. You know, I'm good at high school picks, but I've been doing it for a long time. I've been covering it for a long time. I went 19-7 last week. I miss. I do. But it's like I put on my picks each week. Somebody's got to lose.
Do better, Cole.
Yeah,
be better.
I do. Somebody's got to lose, Diesel. Somebody, there's gonna have to be a loser. There's nothing personal when I pick you to lose in my weekly picks. The only thing that I care about when I do my picks is whether I get them right or wrong. I'm not trying to burn bridges or anything like that. I don't do it from a personal vendetta. I just do it to try to see if I can really have a good record when the season comes to an end. I think I'm right now at 70% winning percentage for week 1. So 19-7, not terrible. I want to do better this week. 7 was too many losses. But week 1 of high school football is here. Diesel, I am at Irmo High School. I wish I could turn the screen around. It really is a beautiful view right here in Columbia, not far from where the Gamecocks will play tomorrow versus Old Dominion. What's their mascot? Old Dominion. Monarchs. Thank you. God, Diesel is the mascot king. The Monarchs and the Gamecocks tomorrow, not far. But I do want to get to a text, and then I will go through some of the games tonight, give you the biggest games in the area. If you have a question, 71307, start your text with the word fan about a game tonight. If you don't get it in time, we'll do it again. We'll get back to high school football at 5:45. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Since you can't turn your screen around, Cole, you can't turn your laptop around. I went and found the photo that you just posted on your social media, and I'm going to put it up on the stream.
It's beautiful.
For those who are watching on the stream right now, you are getting as close to a live view as you can get from Irmo High School where Cole is.
That's fantastic.
Man, look at that beautiful weather down there.
It's hot.
You said it's a little toasty, though.
It's hot, 95, 96. I want to get to this text from the 434. Texter asked, Cole, does Spartanburg have a chance tonight against Dutch Fork? It's a great question, Texter Tolo. Next time, put your name, Tolo, and then your name. That way we can know who's asking. You don't have to, but we encourage you to. It helps us know who's texting the show. Texter, yeah, Spartanburg has a chance tonight. Spartanburg beat Dutch Fork last season. You remember that? They went down to Irmo, where I am right now, and they beat Dutch Fork. And yeah, Dutch Fork was young. They didn't play good at the beginning of the season last year. So Spartanburg, do they have a chance tonight? Yeah, they have a chance. I'm picking Dutch Fork. Dutch Fork's loaded this season. And again, we'll get into high school football again at 5:45. I know we don't have a lot of time in this segment, but Dutch Fork is absolutely loaded. They're going to be tough. I think Spartanburg will make it a game. I don't think Spartanburg is going to get run out of the building. It's at Spartanburg. That should be a good game, though. It really should. Matt Kraft asked, who does Dorman have tonight? Dorman, tough test, Matt Kraft. Dorman is on the road in Grayson, Georgia. Grayson is D1 athlete after D1 athlete after D1 athlete. They're really, really good. Dorman's going to have a tough test tonight in Georgia. So, Dorman had a good win last night or last week. They started off with a win over Greenville, started off the season 1-0, looked very much improved from last season, but they're going to have a big test tonight. Teams that impressed me last week, I said this already, but Bowling Springs, Spartanburg, and Woodruff all impressed me last week, guys, and Diesel. And then as far as some picks go for this week and some big games, Greenville Riverside. I think that's one of the better games in Greenville County tonight. Jabo Shaw and those Red Raiders, man, they put together a spectacular second half last week at Dorman. Almost beat them. They did take the lead. I think them against Matthew Rochester, Riverside, they have a ton of talent at skill position. That's going to be a fantastic football game. I've gone back and forth. I've picked Greenville, but I could very well see Riverside winning that one. Gaffney, J.O. Man tonight, Diesel. That's also one of the biggest games, not only in the upstate, but in the state. Dan Jones begins his final season at Gaffney High School against the J.O. Man team. We talked to Scoot Watson last week on this program. J.O. Man's very, very talented. That game in Greenville County tonight is going to be a tough one. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of people picking J.O. Man. From what I've heard and from who I've talked to, I think that's a mistake. I think J.O. Man's very good. J.O. Man fans, if you're listening, don't get upset with me, but I'm taking Gaffney. I think they're going to be a little too much tonight. Gaffney's going to be really good this year, in my opinion. I could be wrong. I've been wrong once or twice before, but that should be a fantastic game. Let's see. Bowling Springs, Malden.
Cole,
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry. As you're doing these picks, you can get to this after you get through these picks. So we had our high school player of the week last week. Can you give me a sense of who some of the other players who are in contention for that honor? I mean, those are going to be the ones that people in the upstate here are going to want to watch for tonight.
You know, it's funny you ask. Me and a buddy of mine were kind of going through that in our heads yesterday in terms of who could be the week one high school player of the week. Lincoln Husky, obviously, fantastic game last week. You and I talked to him on Tuesday. He was incredible. He's going to have another incredible game against Malden. I'll tell you this. Player of the week candidates, Riverside and Greenville both. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in that football game tonight. I don't know if Riverside's defensive backs, their secondaries, are going to hold up. I think that'll be a high-scoring game. I would say there very well could be a player of the week come out of the Greenville Riverside game. Woodruff Fountain Inn, I also think is going to be a really high-scoring game tonight. Woodruff had a really big win last weekend, scored a ton of points doing so. Fountain Inn, a program, Diesel, that finally, for the first time in school history, in the first, I think this is the third year, they finally have a full class, if you will. Watch that game. So to answer your question, I'm going to say it might be a player from Greenville, Riverside, Woodruff, Fountain Inn, maybe Belton Honeypath. They have Greer tonight. Maybe Pendleton. Christchurch has Asheville School. Maybe someone puts up some numbers there. Mountain View Prep versus Southside Christian will be a good game tonight. St. Joe's Chapman will be a good one. It's going to be tough, man. These player of the weeks, they all make it tough to pick because there's some super talent out there.
When we come back, Cole, politicians are now getting involved in NIL, and it just makes you slap your forehead. Why are we going here? It was inevitable, right? We'll get to that next on the Fan Upstate.
You ready? Let's go.
It's alive!
From the fields to the courts and the gridiron to the tracks.
Electrifying sports talk from start to finish.
You're going wire to wire
With Diesel and Cole Bryson.
on the Fan Upstate.
Texter says Diesel is good with team names unless it's the WNBA. Texter, I'll have you know that I think the New York Muggers could be pretty good this year. I think they could.
That was a great
I
segment,
think
man.
they could. Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Going to move on to a topic that's probably going to piss a lot of you off. But before we get there, we'll take a quick call. One last little drop in on the high school football topic from Tony in Spartanburg. He's got something to say to you, Cole. Tony, what's up, man?
What's up, guys? Cole, the crime dog Bryson. Listen, man, you missed a ginormous nugget on Grayson. For those that don't know, Grayson High School is tucked in between Atlanta and Norcross, Georgia. So they're drawing from a unbelievable base and athletes down there just outside of Atlanta, squeezed in Norcross. So not only that, they beat St. Thomas Aquinas from California last week. So
Wow.
I like Norman, saw him play on TV last week. I think Norman gets beat this week.
I agree with you, man. And
And-
look, good nuggets there.
Yeah. Those guys are building a program at Grayson. I mean, they're in the perfect place. They're a 5A school already. I don't even think the school is 15 or 20 years old yet. So I like that. And certainly Gaffney over Dale, man, is, I think, a slam dunk. I'm going to try to get on your website so I can get in the competition with you. And so somebody can bring it to you and you not just win every week and say somebody bring it, and I'm going to bring it to you
Yes.
in high school football.
Let's
Tony
do it.
laying down the gauntlet on you, Cole.
I like it. Thanks for the call. Hey, good
but
to hear
guys
from you,
have
Tony.
Yeah. You too, brother. Fantastic show. I appreciate it, and I like listening to you guys.
Thank you so much.
I like what
man.
Tony did there, Cole, is he pumped you up first. He gave you a cool nickname, Crime Dog. And then he said, I'm going to come on your website and I'm going to kick your ass.
I like it. I like it, man. We do need some competition. We do. I mean, I don't want to be the only one out there making predictions, winning 70%, 75. Last year I finished 76% winning. I don't want to be the only one. Tony's right. I do need a little competition, right? Competition makes people better.
When we get legalized sports gambling in the state of South Carolina in 2075, Cole will be the official handicapper because he will by then have a whole lot of experience and he'll be virtually unbeatable.
How old will I be in 2075? Oh God.
You were born in 97, right?
6.
96. So you'd be 79 years old.
Hope I live that long, man. Hope I live that long.
Think of old brother, where art thou? Well, I'll only be 82. That's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Speaking of competition, get in your upset picks in our Wire to Wire Upset Picks Challenge brought to you by Ingles. Pick a betting underdog to win the game that they are playing this week in an outright upset. You can get your spreads at ESPN.com. That's the website we use for our official spreads. Go there, find a game that you think the underdog is going to get the outright win, and text it to us, 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. Give us your name, your game, and the spread. We've had a handful come in already today. Buckeye Brian wants Notre Dame +3 over Texas A&M. Will G wants Southern Illinois over BYU +14. Dan B is going with you, Cole. He's taking Georgia Southern +13 over Boise State. Let's see. Boiling Springs Dave also taking Notre Dame +3 over Texas A&M. And MD75 wants West Virginia +10.5. Oh, it's +8 over Penn State. It is, remember, guys, we lock the spreads in as of 3 p.m. on Wednesdays, the day that we start and open up the upset picks. That way, if the line moves a little bit, a half a point, whatever it is, you get whatever points are locked in as of 3 p.m. on Wednesdays.
Diesel.
So, yes.
Did you say DB? Dan B and I picked the
Yeah.
same game?
Dan B. Yeah.
Wait a minute. Who picked it first?
He waited on you, but you got your pick wrong last week. So did Dan. I think Dan took the same pick you did last week too.
Is Dan B copying me?
I think.
Is he copying me, Diesel?
I could be wrong. But hey, we've got so many entries into this contest. Dan B is a huge help in helping us keep track of all this stuff. He's putting them in spreadsheets. I look at these spreadsheets, my eyes go crossed because I don't even know what's going on with his system, but
What's
it
a
works.
spreadsheet?
He's accurate. Yeah. And he then puts it on a graphic for me to be able to understand and to post out there for you guys. And just so you know, we are off on Monday. It's Labor Day. We're not going to be here on Monday. So those upset picks standings should be available for you on Tuesday. Also, because there is one game on Monday night that some of you Tolos might be picking. So we want to wait until Tuesday, until all week 1 games are over before we share that graphic out. So be ready for that on Tuesday at some point. It'll be coming out on the Fan Upstate Twitter and on the Fan Upstate Facebook page. So I teased this, Cole. This ought to put a couple of our Tolos in some kind of mood. Politicians are now using NIL offers to get college athletes to publicly endorse them. Just on its surface, fair or foul? Because most people only read the headline anyway, right?
Okay, that's great. It's a great question because I have not dug into it. I've only heard what you just said. Politicians using NIL offers to get athletes to publicly endorse them, fair or foul. Wow,
it's like any other product. Think about it this way: instead of a politician trying to get young people to vote for them, it's a beverage company who's trying to get young kids to buy the next energy drink, right?
So here's the way I think about it. Just my initial reaction. Business owners, brands are using their money to get athletes to endorse them so that people will come and buy their product. Politicians are using NIL offers to get people to publicly endorse them. You may call it buying votes.
To get votes.
Right. So initially, do I love it? I don't love it initially. Again, I haven't spent a ton of time thinking about it, but is it fair? Yeah, it's fair. It doesn't mean I have to love it. There's nothing that I can think of off the top of my head that makes this wrong ethically.
Right.
It doesn't mean I have to like it. And first initial reaction, I'd say I don't like it.
So all this is going down in the state of Montana. And I'm going to give you the story as I have read it. You can take this with a grain of salt, given the source, okay? This is being reported by Outkick, a notoriously very right-wing leaning sports outlet. But according to the report from Outkick, a politician, a political organization called Montana Together is offering Montana student athletes NIL money to create videos endorsing Democratic Senate incumbent from Montana, John Tester, as he runs for re-election in 2024. So there you go. You got a group called Montana Together offering student athletes in the state of Montana NIL money to create endorsement videos saying, hey, you guys really should go vote for this John Tester guy.
Diesel.
Right? So, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I'll say this because it just hit my mind, and I don't want to, if I don't say it, I'll forget about it. The only pushback I have initially on the entire conversation, and again, I have not put much thought into this, but when it comes to voting, I think, again, this is my opinion, I think it's very important to do your research and decide who to vote for based on what you think, not what your parents think, not what you were raised. Vote who you want to vote because of what you think, the morals, whatever makes you who you are. Do your research and vote based on what you think is right. The only reason I'd have pushback initially is because buying those votes would maybe, Diesel, skip that part and people wouldn't be able to actually do the research. It would be just, hey, let's just go buy these votes, and these voters aren't even researching what's right or wrong.
They aren't necessarily buying votes. They're buying influencers posting videos on their social media to try to get people to go vote. So, I mean, if the individual student athlete is willing to vote based on the fact that this politician allegedly that this politician is giving them money, then that's their prerogative. That's that individual student athlete's prerogative.
Yeah.
I mean, I would hope that most people are not so easily bought.
Sure.
I would hope that that's not really the case for a whole lot of these student athletes. But hey, maybe it's that this politician and their beliefs align with theirs. So they say, okay, yeah, sure, I'll take $400 or $800 to post a couple of videos on my social media pages. But all this came out when University of Montana Athletic Director Kent Haslam said that Montana Together started popping up on a website called openendorse.com, a platform used by student athletes to land NIL deals. So there's a website for that, right? The student athletes log into opendorse.com and they say, ooh, here's somebody who's willing to pay me to do something. So they click on it, they read about it, and they say, I'll take that endorsement, or no, I won't take that endorsement. They're offering $400, $800, or $2,400 for endorsement videos, and each monetary package value-wise comes with something different. It's like $400 for 2 scripted videos. You got to read the script. We'll pay you $400. $800 for 4 scripted videos, or $2,400 for 4 unscripted videos. That would mean the student athlete would come up and say whatever it is they want to say, as long as it's, of course, flattering to that particular political agenda.
Can I tell you what would happen to me if I were a college athlete and I were in this position?
Mm-hmm.
You would see videos out there of me, and again, I say this tongue in cheek, but you would see videos of me promoting everybody, and I'd be the richest, to walk. You'd be like, wait, Cole's promoting Republicans and he's promoting Democrats. Does he really? No, just sign the check. Whatever you want me to say, right?
We got a generation of people, Cole, who are swiping right on everybody, just hoping that somebody will match with them, right? They're not being discerning when it comes to who they're sleeping with. So why would you be discerning when it comes to who's willing to pay you money just to put a video on your Instagram page?
It is interesting, and I do believe, not to get into a deep rabbit hole conversation here, I do believe you'll see more and more of it, because at the end of the day, regardless, and I said that last statement, being funny, at the end of the day, though, the reality of it is, Diesel, people can be bought. Now, you will have people who stand firm in what they believe in, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. My personal opinion, if you believe in what you believe, you don't allow money to sway you otherwise. I think that's admirable. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. However, everyone's different, and I do think there would be a large majority of people who would say, yeah, here's my Venmo. Go ahead. Whatever you want to say, you go ahead and pay me, and we'll get it over with.
So the politician in question, John Tester, he, again, sitting incumbent senator from the state of Montana. He's won 2 cycles in a row. He's going for re-election now for the second time, his 3rd term. He told Fox News that his camp had absolutely no knowledge of the actions of Montana Together, and that they're not in connection with them. So who knows truthfully if he does or doesn't have contact with this organization. However, I don't see a problem with this whatsoever. I mean, you said it before. It's any other product up for sale. I mean, do we really think that the University of Montana offensive lineman or the women's tennis star, do we really think they're going to have any actual influence on their followers on social media? I mean, unless it's a girl who's just like Livy Dunn and is crazy hot and has a super huge social media following, maybe that will influence some easily influenced. But I mean, at the same time, Cole, I know that we've always heard for years, for decades, that it's really, really hard to mobilize the younger generation to go out and vote.
It is. And look,
when we see it broken down from generation to generation, it's always the older generations, the middle-aged and older generations are out there voting in force. And if using social media influencers, paying social media influencers to help get your platform out there is how you do it, I don't really see a problem.
Sorry for the delay there.
Are we still
Diesel.
with you, Cody?
Yeah, I think I lost you for a quick second. No, I think we live in a world, if you can hear me okay, I think we live in a world, Diesel, where people are easily influenced. And to your point about young voters, I agree with you. The younger voters aren't the younger demographics, if you will, they aren't getting out and voting like the older generation is. And the younger people in the world, in my opinion, are the group. That's the group, in my opinion, that's easily influenceable, if that makes sense. I think that money, the society, and I'm not saying it's a good thing. I think in some ways it's a terrible thing, Diesel, but the ways that you can make money in 2024, in this day and age that we're living in, again, everyone, I don't want to sound judgmental, everyone makes money in different ways. If you make money doing this, I make money doing this, more power to you. I don't have to agree with how you make money. I'm not going to tell you, hey, don't go make money that way, but that doesn't mean I don't have to agree with it. We have a world, we live in a world, in a society where you can make money doing sick things, right? And that's just the reality. This is my opinion. Again, I'm not speaking for Diesel. We live in a crazy society. Money rules a lot of people. Influence with money would continue to rule a lot of people. So to answer your question, I do think it's going to continue to happen. I'm not a huge fan of it, but again, I'm not going to tell anybody, hey, don't go make money this way or that way. It's just the world we live in. Man, it's a crazy place to be. I'll tell you that.
And when you juxtapose all of this with the knowledge down, what is this, 2 weeks ago, I think we had knowledge where there are some potential regulations coming down the pipe where universities would have to approve which companies, which vendors their student athletes are endorsing, then maybe things like this go away. Maybe the university says, you know what, we don't want our student athletes involved in anything like this. We don't want them involved in NIL for political gain. So we're not going to allow them to do that. I mean, you and I were even questioning, like, what is that thing going to be that gets a university to say, no, we can't let you partner with this company. Yeah. I mean, our first thought was like, oh, it's probably OnlyFans, right? They won't let the student athletes partner with OnlyFans. Well, maybe they won't let them partner with political organizations either.
You know what? I do think that aspect of it, from the organizations and the schools, not organizations, let me backtrack. The aspect of the schools and universities having say-so, going back to that North Carolina lawsuit we were talking about a few days ago, how much say-so will a university have in telling a student athlete, hey, you can't accept money from this company, from this brand? That's a fascinating question. I think that if universities get into that conversation and you start seeing that happen in terms of universities saying, no, you can't accept money, boy, get ready for the lawsuits.
Yeah, now we're talking about freedom of speech, right? We're talking about fundamental issues to American freedom of speech, your ability to choose who it is you do business with and who it is you talk about on your social media platforms. Cole, I found a little graphic here about voter turnout, and in 2018, Cole, only 11% of voters were between 18 and 29.
Wow!
And if you're a politician who wants to find a way to mobilize the younger and younger base, the college kids up to about 30 years old, it seems like this may be an effective way, an effective strategy if you get your message in the on the right accounts, right?
Could be. It's good, interesting conversation, and I think, like I said a few minutes ago, you're going to continue to see more and more of this pop up. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, it's our friend, your friend, Shane Connick, who's fantastic. He makes anyone a fan of NASCAR. He's with the Charlotte Observer. We'll talk to Shane Connick next.
1-844-FAN-PHONE.
This is Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
Listen, we have had Tolos tell us on this program that they weren't really big fans of NASCAR. And then one Friday, they were driving home, and it was about 4:30 in the afternoon, and all of a sudden they found themselves listening again the next Friday and the next Friday because of Shane Connick of the Charlotte Observer, who does a fantastic job covering NASCAR. Shane, welcome into the program. As always, good to have you, brother. That race last Saturday night, I actually, for one of the few times this season, watched the entire race. And boy, oh boy, all I can say is, how did Kyle Busch give that one up?
Kyle Busch it's going to be the year now. It really does not seem like it. Harrison Burton just gets to the front and steals one. Last weekend at Daytona, what a race that was on Saturday night, and a historic win for the Wood brothers. And now we talk about that playoff picture every single week. In the beginning of the season, we were talking about a lack of Fords, but that Chevys, Toyotas end up making it to the playoffs, but then Fords find ways to have success when you get later in the year. And now look at all these Ford drivers who find themselves heading to the playoffs with Harrison Burton. Who would have thought, being the latest?
Shane Connick of the Charlotte Observer joining us here on the Fan Upstate. Shane, can you talk for a second just about Tyler Reddick's dominance at Darlington in the past? I mean, he's on the verge of securing a regular season championship. He's been just lights out at Darlington. 3 top 3 finishes in his last 5 starts at Darlington. I know last May it didn't really go his way. He's qualified 10th or better there 7 times in a row. In your mind, he's got to be one of the odds-on top 2 or 3 favorites to win this race, right?
I think he is, but I think you can't forget about the driver who is right behind him in that chase for the regular season title, and who's currently, I believe, still the favorite above him to win the race on Sunday. When Kyle Larson's out there in the field, as strong as Tyler Reddick is, he is the best Toyota driver in the sport now, with Denny Hamlin, the doc to his team, heading to the playoffs. Tyler Reddick has been so strong this whole season, particularly at Darlington historically, but I do think that the guy who won last year's fall race at Darlington about a year ago this time, Kyle Larson, with the dominance we've seen him have at times this year, with the crazy race that we might ensue at Darlington, I really don't think it'll be a new driver winning to get into the playoffs at this point in the season. And as strong as Tyler Reddick is, I do think that Kyle Larson is just a little bit better, and that this race will show that.
Shane, I don't know, and again, I don't follow NASCAR and cover it to the extent that you and others do. I don't know that I can think of an illustration in sports, not just NASCAR, but in sports in general, where a driver has been fired and goes out at the end of the season and wins a race. I mean, is this the craziest story that NASCAR's ever seen?
You see this kind of stuff sometimes because you get these weird points where even veteran drivers have periods where they're uncertain about their future. But it does feel that this late in the season, to have a new driver that unexpectedly win, and have him be in a position where he doesn't know what he's doing next year. Because again, those drivers and those teams, it gets to a point you're just trying to get by. You're trying to find a way to have a strong finish. And similar position for the 21 team on Saturday night, but they end up finding their opportunity. Parker Retzlaff in there pushing toward the end, who found himself toward the front late as well. And I think that those crazy races that you see that many wrecks happen, that it allows certain drivers consistency to shine, and ultimately a team like Harrison Burton able to get rewarded even when they're in that kind of position.
Shane Connick joining us here on the Fan Upstate. Look for him on social media. Look for him on Twitter at Shane_Connick. NASCAR just released their 2025 schedule, including a very interesting exhibition race to kick things off, the Clash at Bowman Gray. Do you look at that as kind of a preseason race? And do you like sort of the goofy, fun preseason races, or are you more of a traditionalist? NASCAR starts at Daytona. That's the way it should always be.
I like the idea of the Daytona 500 kicking off the season, but I think that this Bowman Gray deal is a much better, I guess it really is a kind of experiment than whatever the heck they were doing for the past few years out in Los Angeles. To have a preseason event where they drive 50 miles an hour around in a circle in a big stadium that you know you're not going to sell out completely just feels like you're trying to force yourself to be in a certain market that they're doing with Los Angeles. Having this event at Bowman Gray is going to allow the sport to return to its roots in a similar way it did at North Wilkesboro, having a non-points paying race in that kind of market. And the only difference is that you did it with the All-Star race, having it in the middle of the season. Now, Rockingham Speedway, another North Carolina track, making a big return next year. The thing they're doing to start to revive that old racetrack out in Richmond County in North Carolina is that it will host the Xfinity and Trucks series, as opposed to having a big cup race like some of them are. But again, the ones that North Wilkesboro has had is having again, and now Bowman Gray, non-points paying races. And in Bowman Gray's case, in the Clash, an exhibition race. So I think it's a good concept. It's good exposure. And I think with the right track, like North Wilkesboro, has pretty much, I think, been a success regardless of the quality of racing. And again, it's not a points paying race. Going 50 miles an hour around in a circle that they were doing in the LA Coliseum in a preseason race, no reason for it. But this at Bowman Gray could work.
Hey, Shane, one of the bigger talking points last week among NASCAR fans, guys who were former drivers who host podcasts, was the broadcaster, the lead broadcaster, lead announcer, if you will. And it's NBC's NASCAR Cup Series broadcast, lead announcer Lee Diffie, who was born in Australia. He has become one of the premier auto racing announcers in the United States, Shane, with F1 and IndyCar. But there was a lot of conversation about him being on the NASCAR call. I'll be honest with you, I was watching it with other people, and their comments were, when I hear him, I don't think a NASCAR race is happening in the background.
Lee Diffie was excellent, I thought, particularly on the finish in his NASCAR debut. He crushed that final call of Harrison Burton's victory. And we heard a lot of Diffie over the past few weeks at the Olympics. And like we all know, he had the big moment calling the finish in the race that Noah Lyles won, the 100-meter. And you could tell that Diffie, just as a pure broadcaster, the way he tells stories, the way that not many commentators call races like. And clearly he is unique in that he calls races and he adds that picture and context and talks in a way that no other broadcaster talks, regardless of, yes, he's Australian, and then he has that accent that you always notice. There's a distinct way he calls races that nobody else calls games or races like. And having him now in NASCAR, in a lot of people's eyes, the premier form of motorsports, especially in the United States of America, is a big deal. And I loved Rick Allen a lot. I thought he is a top broadcaster, and now he's just going to be calling more races with the CW next year, calling every Xfinity Series race, as opposed to the Cup race, which is at the end of the season that NBC broadcasts. Lee Diffie, though, a definitely bigger name, they feel like, and all that, but I think that after this weekend at Darlington, we heard how he sounded on NASCAR, and we could tell that he researched, he knew as much about the teams, as much about the sport as any broadcaster who has been doing it, calling NASCAR specifically, a long time would have. And again, Diffie being in a unique spot, and it's not like NBC does every single NASCAR race for the entire season, that when it moves to Prime Video for 5 races in the middle of the summer next year, you have 5 races on TNT Sports. Dale Jr. is going to be all over those broadcasts. They're going to look, we already talk about how much different Mike Joy, Kevin Harvick, and Clint Boyer and the entire Fox broadcast are from the NBC broadcast. We're going to really have 4 completely different types of broadcasts over the season in the future. And that's going to allow for the uniqueness of having that, I guess, big race feel of having Lee Diffie toward the end of the season when you get toward the playoffs and toward the championship. And overall, it seems like the reception was pretty positive, especially after the end of that race and how he called it, and with Harrison Burton winning and nailing it at the end with the Jeff, your little boy has done it line, and then creating the whole moment with Jeff Burton running down there to celebrate with his son. And it's going to be interesting.
Shane, can you go a little more into that the 5 races in the middle of the season you're talking about there? For those who don't know, there's going to be an in-season tournament starting at the end of June, running through the month of July. Your thoughts on even doing this in the first place? Is it a good idea, or is it yet another gimmicky thing that NASCAR is trying?
Well, we're going to have the whole in-season tournament thing. Yes, it's a gimmick, but NASCAR has been implementing these gimmicks, and they add eyeballs to the sport in some way, and the eyeballs, the people who are watching the sport, especially these younger, newer fans, just have more to talk about throughout the season, even if it's that they don't love every single thing that NASCAR does. But either way, aside from the in-season tournament, it's going to have drivers competing against each other on the racetrack, in addition to how they're battling in points and for their teams and for themselves trying to win each week. These races are going to allow them to just have a different feel for the viewer and even for the fans who attend them. These Prime Video slate that it got starts out with the Coca-Cola 600. That's always one of the biggest races for TV, one of the biggest races in terms of new people who don't always go to NASCAR or even follow it at all, going to a race for the first and only time in the year or the first time ever. And so having a more unique broadcast, a more distinct broadcast, kind of like, again, we see the traditional Fox broadcast. A lot of people have a lot of negative things to say about aspects of them, might have a lot of really positive things to say about things like the booth. Then NBC, people may not love the booth as much as the Fox booth, but it's a markedly better quality broadcast. And now they don't go to commercials, which is awesome. It's all keeps changing. And again, I do think that breaking it up a bit and having these different broadcasts, as long as they have people who like Dale Jr. is going to be all over the new stuff they're doing, that will continue to at least potentially create more buzz at each point in the season.
Shane Connick, the Charlotte Observer. Shane, my last question for you. Would you look at the totality of this NASCAR season? Because we know ratings took a dip. The last few years, they have been on the increase, if you will, on the incline. They have boosted a little bit, bumped up a little bit over the last few years. Would you look at this 2024 NASCAR season as we head into the playoffs as a success for the sport?
I think it has been in a lot of ways. Like we talk about every week, you've had so many different things happen, and then each of those moments, starting with the big one toward the end of Daytona 500 and having one of the stars of the sport and William Byron getting his first win in that kind of a race, having the 3-wide finish we had at Atlanta, then eventually the fight at North Wilkesboro, all different types of stories that are going to reach different people who either might have always loved NASCAR and they appreciate an old brawl at a place like North Wilkesboro especially, or new fans who might just, like people I know who might not have known a thing about NASCAR, come across a video of 2 known top performers in a sport getting into a fist fight. So I think that there have just been all different moments from on the track to off the track this year. It hasn't been the thing to have to note at this point in the season, though. It hasn't been the greatest year ever or anything like that. I mean, maybe in a lot of ways it is because of how the technology and the social media and the media rights that we have and the money now compared to any time before. But it feels like it's really building toward the future as it's trying to find its place within how every professional sport operates and not necessarily be following a different sport or following other leagues, and finding a way to do its own thing, retain its own viewers and fans, and get new ones.
Shane Connick of the Charlotte Observer. Definitely go look him up on Twitter at Shane_Connick. My last question for you here, Shane, is Bubba Wallace has got to have a big performance at Darlington this weekend. His hopes to get in the playoff hinge on it. If Bubba Wallace doesn't get into these playoffs, do you feel like he's kind of at risk of fading away in a lot of fans' minds. He came into this sport on fire, right? And he made a big name for himself, but he ultimately hasn't found a ton of consistency and a ton of success. Do you think Bubba Wallace, more than a lot of other drivers, needs a big performance this weekend?
I think he really does, especially coming in just outside of the cut line, looking ahead at the playoffs. He has been last year reaching the postseason for the first time, falling or losing early in the playoffs. Hasn't won a race now in a little while, not all this year. And with 23-11, we talked about Tyler Reddick earlier, and I'm curious if we end up seeing more speed from Bubba Wallace and Reddick kind of working more to push Wallace than even Hamlin and some of the other Toyota cars, because there's all that team strategy, and I feel like that would just be more than any other race when it's the final race before the playoffs. And with Bubba Wallace in that situation, 23-11, it was a very big deal to have both of their cars in the playoffs a year ago. And now they know that Tyler Reddick has a chance to reach the championship four and potentially win this thing this year. And, you know, probably the best chance of any Toyota driver, it feels like, going into the playoffs as it stands right now. But it's not just about him. Again, he's locked in among the top drivers in the sport for kind of the first time. And Bubba Wallace, it's much more, not just for him, but for 23-11 to get both of his cars into the playoffs. And in terms of the pressure that Bubba might have, I saw Bubba said in an interview earlier this week that he gets a text from Michael Jordan after every single race. MJ dialed in with this 23-11 racing team that's hoping to get its two cars into the playoffs.
Shane, fantastic stuff as always, man. We appreciate you and look forward to many more conversations, man.
Look forward to more, and it'll be playoff time next time we talk. Also, are we making an upset pick this week in the college football pool?
That's right. Yeah. Do you have one for us, or do you want to send it to us after the fact?
After the fact, okay.
I mean, no,
good.
Yeah. Do you want to? I mean, you could send it to me after we get off the phone.
Unless you have one now.
If you got one right now, send it to me right now.
But not say it. Send it to you.
No. You can say it. You can say it.
Okay, yeah, we're rolling with the Charlotte 49ers. Under the lights, Saturday night, the James Madison Dukes are coming into the Queen City. It will be an atmosphere in Charlotte, a Gold Rush theme. Tickets nearly sold out. The team in alternate gold jerseys now in college football 25. Should be a cool atmosphere in Charlotte tomorrow night. And I think the Niners, spread keeps on moving. Biff Poggi talked about how this week trying to drum it up that about half of the starters are going to be out for Charlotte. And that allows, I think, and he talked about how it started to really tout a bunch of specific JMU players. I think that he's just trying to now drum it up that, we're going to get killed at home. And if that's the case, now Charlotte has got this. They've been hungry. They've been fired up all training camp, and coming out on a Saturday night under the lights at home. Give me the Niners.
So, Shane, can you tell us, do you have any idea where that spread started? Because as of right now, it's James Madison -8. And if this information had come out from Biff that a lot of starters were going to be injured, you would think that line has moved since that interview has happened. Do you have any intel on that?
I believe it opened at 9.5. JMU -9.5. Charlotte and was, talking a lot about that. The line starts to move to 8.5 to 7.5. It got all the way to -6.5 before Biff, when we entered the room for Biff Poggi's presser on Tuesday. And by the end, when I walked out of that room and checked DraftKings, it was already slightly up to -7.
Wow. Fantastic. Shane, we appreciate your call. We appreciate your pick, and good luck. I mean, James Madison is a program that has enjoyed an awful lot of success over the past couple of years. But hey, they've gone through a lot of changes. New head coach, new quarterback, new a lot of things. So hey, maybe Charlotte gets that first big signature win of the 2024 season. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you. Two programs on the rise and college football kicking off. Nothing like it.
Yes, sir. Shane Connick of the Charlotte Observer joining us right here on the Fan Upstate. We appreciate his time every single week. We know that you Tolos love him because you tell us that you love having Shane Connick on these airwaves. When we come couple of games on the slate tonight. College football kickoff week rolling on this Friday. Big games happening. Maybe one big game. There's one big game on tonight. But the rest, Cole, I think one or two of these could be fairly entertaining.
I pulled my computer up, Diesel, and I said, there's only one game tonight. What are you talking about? Well, I had SEC as the filter, right? Not FBS 1A.
Right.
So it was only showing one game.
But
that's my bad.
Hey, if we get this trend, if we get a couple more of these teams struggling against their weaker FCS opponents, you never know what might happen. So on the slate for tonight, a 31.5-point spread. Lehigh is at Army.
That's it. That's mine. Yep.
That's yours. That's your most watchable game of the night. How about that? Oklahoma are 42-point favorites at home against Temple. This is not Matt Rule's Temple anymore.
Ooh, you know what? That could get ugly. No, you haven't gotten me with anything. I got bad news for you. I won't be able to watch, obviously, any of these early games, but you're not setting that hook yet.
Are you gonna go back and watch the replay of Elon Duke?
Yes,
favored by 24.
Yes, I'm going to do that before I go to bed. I've got to see what Elon does against Duke. There's no doubt.
You got Western Michigan at Wisconsin. Wisconsin favored by 24.5. That's a 9 p.m. kickoff.
Ooh. Again, I thought you were supposed to set the hook. Give me some good bait here. God.
Well, see, I'm trying to get all the crap out of the way, and I'm going to bring you the two games you might actually be interested in watching.
Okay.
Number one is because you might see a big-time program with a lot of pride and history go down. Florida Atlantic at Michigan State, only a 13-point spread.
That concerns me, right?
That
concerns me that it's only a does that indicate how bad Michigan State's gotten, Diesel?
Yeah, it's got to, because Florida Atlantic is not a good football team, right? They're not a good football program. They had that little blip where Lane Kiffin was there, and he was able to introduce some sort of magic in his time. By the way, did you ever see that promotional video where Lane Kiffin, I think it might have been his first season or second season there at FAU. He's on camera, and he's clearly looking towards the sun. So he's sort of like halfway squinting. He's like, "Hey, Al fans, really excited to be back for another year of FAU football. Go Owls."
Sounds like, never mind. I'm not going to say who.
No, the one game that everybody's going to want to watch, Cole, tonight, and it's a late one. You're going to be up late to watch this one, and it's actually the best one. TCU at Stanford.
Hey.
TCU 8.5-point favorites on the road. I think that's going to be a watchable game. Not that Stanford is anything really to write home about at this point.
But still,
yeah,
that's not bad.
I think that's going to be the game that most people are going to be watching. You'll probably tune in for the first half of FAU Michigan State. I hope for just the health and safety of the people up there in East Lansing, Michigan, that Michigan State is sandbagging a little bit, and they come back around as a program, and they take care of business against FAU.
Diesel, what does this tell you about tonight's 6 matchups? You ready for this? Combined point spread in tonight's 6 matchups. 143 points. There's only 6 games, and that's the combined spread of all 6 games. Tonight's not going to be the night for close games, according to Vegas. 143 points. That's shocking, but that's tonight's games. Like I said, I might check out the last one. All right, it's time to fight it out. How much longer will the 5 o'clock fight go this football season? We don't know, but we do know that we have at least one more for you for now coming up next.
to the courts and the gridiron to the tracks.
Electrifying sports talk from start to finish.
You're going wire to wire
With Diesel and Cole Bryson.
on the Fan Upstate.
Hour number 3 of the program coming your way. It is Wire to Wire on the Fan Upstate, 3 to 7 p.m., 97.1 Spartanburg, 97.7 Greenville, anywhere in the world on the free Odyssey app. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. So good to be with you. Diesel's in the Ingalls Markets studios. I am, as a reminder, if you just tuned in on the stream where we're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, I am at Irmo High School, where we will have Burns at Irmo on the Fan Upstate for you tonight. Pre-game show 7 o'clock, kickoff 7:30. Diesel, you know what time it is? 5 o'clock, the most interacted with segment on this radio show. Let's get it started with a 5 o'clock fight.
It's an all-out slugfest, and nobody's leaving unscathed. 3 topics, 1 winner. It's the 5 o'clock fight on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
I know we have a lot of new listeners during football season that hop in. You know, we have our TOLOs, which stands for Turn On, Leave On, during the course of the year. But then football season comes around. People come out of hibernation, turn the radio dial back on for the first time in a long time, and we're glad to have you. By the way, what's TOLO? Turn On, Leave On. That's what we call you. So I want to let you know about the 5 o'clock fight each and every day. 5 o'clock, there are 3 rounds based on sports, life, food. Some days it's random. But like I said, it's the most interacted with segment on this show. It is the 5 o'clock fight. You get to tell us who wins and who loses. Diesel and I must disagree in all 3 rounds. Let's get it with round 1. Diesel, 2024 Gamecock football, 24 hours from now, will be underway. 4:15 kickoff tomorrow in Willie B. That place is going to be rocking. That place is going to be hot. I saw earlier where they announced it will be the record high at kickoff in the history of South Carolina football tomorrow.
Ooh.
It's going to be a brutal day to be in the stadium, but a great day to be in the press box where I'll be. So good luck to you guys going out there, the Gamecock Tolos. But the question revolves around Gamecock football in 2024. Diesel, we know that Robbie Ashford came into the program, has now climbed to QB2 on the roster behind Lenora Sellers. Round 1 question. Does Robbie Ashford make life uncomfortable for QB1 during the season?
Oh, that's a tough question. I mean, you're asking me basically, do I believe Lenora Sellers will open up the door by having a bad performance or 2 or 3 that allows Robbie Ashford to step in and potentially steal the job away? I'm going to say no, because I think Shane Beamer knows that Lenora Sellers is the future of this program, at least as of right now. Robbie Ashford is, I believe he's a senior, or he may be a redshirt senior. He may be like a 6th-year guy. I do believe this is his last year there. I know Shane Beamer's job is on the line. I know that he feels like he needs to be in win-now mode. But I don't think Shane Beamer really lets those sort of things affect his decision-making. And he knows that if he wants to play the long game, if he wants Lenora Sellers to be a quality quarterback next year and the year after that, that he needs to have some stability, that he needs to know and trust that if I have a bad game, I'm not going to get benched and then potentially transfer later on down the line. So I'm going to say no, Robbie Ashford doesn't make a true strong push to be QB1 this year.
So I like your reasoning. However, I'm going to push back. I'm going to disagree. I think in 2024, I'm not saying necessarily that Lenora Sellers drops the ball, figuratively and literally, right? However, what I am saying is I do believe that Robbie Ashford is a guy that's a quality starter for a lot of football teams. And I think that if Lenora Sellers were not QB1, Robbie Ashford would be looked at as a quality starter for the Gamecocks. I say in 2024, at some point, he does make life uncomfortable for Lenora Sellers. And you can look at this two different ways, Diesel. There's two sides of this coin, right? The one side is what you mentioned. Lenora's having a bad day, or one or two or three bad days, right? And then Robbie Ashford having an opportunity to come in and take the job. The flip side of the coin is Lenora Sellers can just continue to be Lenora Sellers if he is good. He's not great. He's not terrible, but he continues to be good. But the flip side of the coin is there's this guy in practice. There's this guy that's coming in games, and he's stealing the show. He's stealing the headlines. He's outperforming QB1, and I do think that Robbie Ashford's a good enough quarterback to make life uncomfortable. I'm not saying he wins the job, but I do think he makes life uncomfortable for QB1 and Lenora Sellers in 2024. All right.
Very good.
That's round one. We have two more to go. 71307 is the way you can text the show. Start your text with the word fan. Here's round two. I like this one a lot, Diesel. Round two, if you're at a concert or a game, either one, do you prefer to leave early to beat the crowd so you're missing out on music at the end or game at the end? Or do you stay until the house lights come on, or in the football or game instance, until the stadium is not empty, but until most of everyone's filed out? That way you can maybe dodge the traffic, not beat it, but dodge it because most people have left. This is a fascinating question. Diesel, what say you?
I hate the people that leave early. You know, if you're at a concert, you know the show's not over until the house lights come on, right? When you see all the lights turning on, show is done. But if it's still dark, there's an encore coming. They're going to come out, they're going to play another song, they're going to play another two songs, and it's probably going to be the hit, right? You don't leave before the encore. You don't leave before the best part. You don't leave before the very end. I don't care if the show is not good. I don't care if the game is a blowout. You stay all the way until the end, no matter what.
This one's tough, man. This one's really tough. I understand your reasoning. However, if you wait until the end, you are adding an hour, sometimes more than an hour, onto your ETA of arriving at home or arriving at the hotel or arriving at wherever you're going that night. I would say, you know what? I've seen enough, and hopefully it's not like a nail-biter game, right? A game-winning field goal coming up. But hopefully I've seen enough to where I can slip out, 6 minutes to go. And I've especially in a game, because I go to more games than I do concerts, Diesel, I have been known to do that quite a good bit. And luckily, knock on wood, it hasn't bitten me yet where the team that's losing comes back and wins. But I say, look, let's beat the traffic. Let's get out a little early, and we can hit the road and hammer down. That is round two. 71307. Start your text with the word fan. If you're undecided on who wins today's 5 o'clock fight, well, there's a round three.
Final round. Fight.
All right, this is it. This is the final one. Diesel, I am in the press box at Irmo High School. I am, obviously, we have the call later tonight of Irmo Burns right here on the Fan Upstate. I'm looking down. I have a fantastic view. I can see a water tower with the city of Columbia not far in the distance. I can see old, what are the old smokestacks? Is that, I guess that's the right word, smokestacks from old mills, kind of far off in the background. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. It's very hot, but I'm looking down at Irmo on a green, beautiful turf with a black and gold or a black and yellow Irmo in the end zones. The turf stands out, right? It pops. You can see it. It's bold. The numbers are crisp. There's no mistakes. But the question for round number three, Diesel, you're a high school coach or an AD. Either one is acceptable here. The question, though, is if you're the high school coach or the AD, and you're in the situation that Burns is in 2025 when they'll have a new stadium, are you going to put in a beautiful turf like this where a lot of athletes complain, especially in the NFL? that turf causes a lot of injuries? Or are you an old school grass guy? Which are you putting in your new stadium?
I'm putting down turf because it's a more consistent surface. I mean, if it's dry, it's going to play the same no matter when you're standing on it, right? If it's wet, you put on a slightly different pair of style of cleats to deal with that. But I'm going with the turf because I think it looks absolutely fantastic.
It does look good.
Most of the time, you are going to get it sponsored by someone, like one of the sponsors. Its name is on the wall somewhere in the stadium. They're paying for that turf. Very rarely do the schools actually pay for that turf themselves. But when it comes to grass, Cole, it is a ton of maintenance. So just for the ease and the fact that you only have to replace it, once every 6 or 7 years or more, I'm going with turf.
So it's hard to argue. We're splitting hairs here. I love the way turf looks. However, Diesel, I'm not a fan of injuries. I don't know why, but there's a spike. There's an increase of injuries playing on turf compared to grass. I don't love all of the lines in the end zone. I'm looking right now. I see the football lines. I see what I assume is lacrosse. I see what I think is soccer and maybe cricket. I don't know if they have cricket in high school, but there's a lot of lines. And I'm confused, right? Because I'm not intelligente. So I see too many lines. There's too much going on. Also, I'm an old school grass guy. You take your shoes off. You walk in that grass. Yes, the turf looks better from the eye. But, man, there's very few things better than on a Friday night in the fall or a Saturday, whatever it is, in the fall, and you can just smell that fresh cut grass. Are you kidding me? Give me grass all day long in round 3. All right, a quick recap before we tell you how you can submit a fight. Round 1, does Robbie Ashford make life uncomfortable for QB1 Lenora Sellers in 2024? Diesel says no. I say yes, he does. Round 2, you're at a concert or a game. You leave early to beat the crowd, or do you stay till the very last minute until the house lights come on? Diesel says no, you got to stay. I say hit the road a little early and hammer down. And then round 3, if you're a high school coach or an AD, if you're getting to build a new stadium, are you putting in grass or are you putting in turf? Diesel says turf. I say grass. What say you? 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Let us know who wins each round, and here's how you can submit a fight.
What do you want Diesel and Cole Bryson to fight about next?
If you've got an ass, I'll kick it.
Submit your topics to Diesel at thefanupstate.com. Subject line fight on the Fan Upstate.
Diesel Corn Chip says, I'd like to see Cole try to leave early calling a Burns game.
We're up 56-4. Let's go home.
Or down 56-4, right?
That too. There's no need to do a post game, guys. Let's just play silence.
Let's pack it up. We're having technical difficulties. We're going to pack this thing up. We're down 6 touchdowns. Let's call it a night. All right. Let's see who is winning, who is losing. Several texts already have come in the stream. How about that, man? Already 3 or 4, 5, 6 votes on the stream, it looks like. Mark, Madcraft, DB, Shane, welcome in, fellas. Appreciate you being here. Diesel, what are you looking at?
I'll go with the stream here. Shane Barrett says Diesel wins round 1. There's a reason Robbie Ashford transferred in from Auburn, and that's because he can't throw an accurate pass.
Wow.
Wait, so, okay. Round 2, Cole. Round 3, Cole. Turf sucks, says Shane Barrett. Dan B, to my argument about turf, he goes, nope, grass is the best. Muddy, rainy, gross games are so much fun to play in. Madcraft says Cole wins round 1. Cole wins round 3. Round 2 is debatable. I'd never leave a concert early, but when it's pouring cold rain and Miami was getting blown out, heck yeah, I took an early stroll to the car. Dan B says round 1, Diesel. Round 2, Diesel. Round 3, Cole. And then Mark L.O. Ducks says round 1, Diesel. Round 2, Cole. Round 3, Diesel.
I tell you what, man, that is an interesting response from the Tolos on the chat. Let's go text line. A lot of text to get to, 71307. Let's go down to Keith and TR. Keith in Travelers Rest says, I don't think Robbie Ashford stands a chance. Listening to LSU guys say he needs to work on everything about his throwing isn't a great look for him. So Keith says no, he doesn't expect Robbie
but LSU
Ashford.
guys start drinking hard liquor at 10 a.m.
Yeah, and then he comes back and says, I meant Auburn, not LSU. I was wondering where he meant there. Auburn guy, and I get it, right? He didn't pan out at Auburn. I understand that. I just tell you, man, I don't think that he's just a throwaway. Like, I don't think you can just cast him aside and make him a castaway. I think there's still good ball left from Robbie Ashford. And look, sometimes it takes longer, right, for people to find out what they need to do to be successful. Maybe find a system where they can be successful. It's going to be an interesting conversation with Robbie Ashford. Let's see, 262. Round 1, Diesel. Round 2, Cole. Round 3, Cole. So I do get the win there. Let's see. Willie says round 3, Cole. Willie Nelson, sorry. Thank you for texting, Willie Nelson. I didn't know you were listening. Texter from the 803 says, Cole domination today. 770 says, I'm going to give Cole this one today, only leaving early for the cupcake games, or if it's a blowout, I'll stay for concerts until the end, says Corn Chip. I do think, though, Diesel, it's a little bit different with concerts versus games, because I'm not going to tell you if it's a close game, I won't be dumb enough to leave, right? I know. I mean, that just you know, you got to stay if it's a close game. However, something that I would like to hear from our audience, and we're going to hit a break in a minute, but you can text this in if you've ever had this happen to you, because, Diesel, I have heard stories of this. Have you ever, Tolos, in the upstate, wherever you may be listening from, we appreciate you being here. Have you ever left a game early thinking it's over, and then all of a sudden you find out, you turn the radio on, something happens, and oh, the game's not over. The other team that you thought was losing or that was losing comes back and wins? That'd be a tough pill to swallow, Diesel.
So, Cole, I was at the North Carolina at App State game. I want to say it was 2022 when that game was played in Boone. Might have been 2021. That game was just a back and forth affair. It ended up somewhere in the high 60s versus the low 60s final score. I mean, it came down to the very last play, and I want to say it even went into maybe multiple overtimes. But every time it looked like North Carolina was going to run away with this thing, you know, they would score. It'd be late in a quarter, late in the fourth quarter, and fans would start streaming out. And then, as they were about 50 yards away from the stadium, App State would come up back and score real quick and make it a ball game. And they were all trying to rush back into the stadium. And this happened like 3 different times, Cole. I've got video of fans streaming out of the stadium because they thought it was over. And then none of them could get back in. There was a crowd of them standing outside the gates because there's no re-entry to those games. You don't leave early. You just don't do it.
That's fantastic, man. That's a great story. And by the way, Diesel, another vote with you. Paul, the athletic director here at Irmo High School, sent me a note and said turf is the AD's best friend. Too much traffic to keep grass on these things. So he agrees with you there. Look,
yeah, you got to think about it. You got gym classes. You've got Friday games. You got a lot of practices. Some schools, I'm sure a lot of schools now have practice fields nearby. But you know, they could be playing on a grass practice field because they don't have to put a ton of effort into keeping that grass perfect. And then they're playing on turf. So now you're playing on 2 different surfaces and your, reaction is just different. And then of course you had graduations and, like I said, PE classes and all kinds of stuff that you add to it, soccer games, and turf just seems like the much cheaper way to go.
I did hear, Diesel, I'm not sure if it's true or not. I did hear, though, a couple of weeks ago, I was somewhere. I was at a game in the upstate covering it, or as a scrimmage or a practice, and someone did tell me that I believe at the high school level, you have to replace. Oh, it was at T.L. Hanna last week. That's exactly where it was. Jason Toner was telling me, the head football coach at T.L. Hanna. So I think you have to replace turf like every 10 to 12 years. I didn't know that. I don't know if the beads and what it's made of, the substance underneath, eventually just kind of I don't want to say like goes away, but evidently there's something that happens underneath the turf. All those rubber little beads or the rubber pallets, if you will, they just get worn out over the years, and you have to replace it. And again, hopefully sometimes schools can get some help with that. But yeah, it does look good.
And I feel I do feel for the student athletes as those rubber pellets get kicked up in the sky. Those things get into your eyes, and I'm sure that's another thing that they've got to deal with. It's just a huge pain in the butt to try to deal with all those pellets being in their face, stuck to their faces, stuck to their arms because they get sweaty all the time.
And then last question for you, Diesel, and then we'll run to a break. This is a very important question. Not sports related, but I got here at 2, right? I'm on air 3 to 6, get an hour break, and then Burns. So there's no really time built in for dinner. However, how about in the corner of the end zone, a fish and chips food truck? What are the chances that fish and chips food truck accepts debit card? Do you think so? You think I maybe can get a little dinner tonight?
Man, it's something you could just plug into the top of your phone. Why are there still places that don't accept debit cards?
You gotta.
That doesn't make any sense.
So
I guarantee you that food truck's going to be delicious.
Oh, if they do, Cole will partake in the food truck. But I never have cash, man. I never carry cash.
Shane Barrett says that's why turf sucks. I'm a hairy dude. Those little black pellets get stuck everywhere.
Thanks. TMI. Shane.
TMI. Thank you for that, Shane. When we come back, Cole, we're going to do a little reminiscing. How about it? Me and you, well, maybe not so much you, but the Tolos. What is the best season for your team in your lifetime? The best season your team ever had in your lifetime. And that's why I say, Cole, it can't be you because the Dallas Cowboys haven't had.
I'm not partaking in this. I'm not doing it.
We'll get to that next, right here on the Fan Upstate. Bluebird perfect weather at Irmo High School, where he's going to be on the call of Burns versus Irmo. Maybe not the same for a lot of local high schools here in the upstate. I'm seeing severe weather alerts popping up on my screen here.
Wow.
I'm adding those into the commercial breaks. And as I'm looking at the radar here, it looks like there's just kind of pop-up showers all over the upstate. As of right now, it's more focused in the Anderson, Clemson, Hartwell area.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit down towards Belton and Easley. You guys might be catching little bits of rain here and there, or maybe it's just big thunderclouds cropping up where you are. But, of course, we're going to keep you up to date as much as we can with the weather that's going on out there, just to let you guys be a little more prepared as you're heading out for week 1 high school football game. Still feels I don't like it, man. I don't like week 1. It's like this is game 2, but it's in week 1.
Yeah, it's
make
the
it make
second
sense.
week we've played, but okay, whatever.
Yeah, if they want to make it different, just say, hey, first week, second week, third week, instead of week 1, week 2, week 3.
I don't know why
it's confusing.
Why can't you just add a week on the back end instead of 14? Have 50? I don't know. Again,
Doesn't make any sense.
They don't pay me, to make the decisions.
Well, when you are czar of the the South Carolina high school football leagues, Cole, you can make that decision. How about that? Can you make that your first executive order, please?
Oh, listen, no, because there would be a lot of them. No, the answer to that, if I had any say at the high school league, no, let me not get in trouble, but skip that conversation.
A lot of texts coming in here at 71307. Texter says, it's Billy Bob. Cole, it's Billy Bob. I haven't figured out. If Beamer sucks this year, fire his ass and bring Bobby Petrino to Columbia. After last night, it's obvious he has his mojo back. He would win championships in Columbia. He's got a stud at quarterback he would bring with him.
Wow. Strong
your
takes
thoughts.
there.
Yeah, your thoughts on Petrino in Columbia.
No.
No?
Heck no. Are you kidding me? No. I'm good. No. I would take
You're saying
Beamer.
the cheerleaders aren't cute enough in Columbia to hop on the back of his motorcycle?
Listen, I find if I were a Gamecock fan, I would be okay with Beamer. And real quick, 2 other texts I wanted to get to earlier. Jarrett Tripp said, one time I left the USC Clemson game 2 innings early to beat the crowd at the well to see USC women's basketball at the SEC tournament. USC was down by several runs and came right back after we left. I was upset. That's rough. Cornchip says, my friends and I went to the Georgia Southern Georgia Tech game roughly 10 years ago while still students at Southern. We left at the half since we thought, let me click on the text, it was heading for a blowout and to get lunch. Southern still lost, but they made it a close game at the end. Yeah, that sucks. That sucks when you leave early.
Cole, I missed one of the named moments in App State football history. It's called the Miracle on the Mountain.
Yeah.
Billy Napier was on the Furman football team that was playing App State, and App intercepted a 2-point conversion attempt in the end zone as time expired, ran it all the way back to win the game. I had to leave early. I didn't choose to leave early. I had to leave early, and it haunts me to this day. That's why I am so staunch
Diesel, that is,
on being a member of the All Zeros Club.
Diesel, that is tough. Like
brutal, right?
Oh, I don't know. And they beat who?
That was Furman.
Oh,
it's Furman.
That's a tough one. That's
Billy Napier. Billy Napier threw a pick in the end zone that was run back for the game-winning. I think it would be a 2-point conversion the other way. Is that right? Or is that a touchdown? We went through the NFL rules yesterday.
Yeah.
You did great. You got 6 out of 6 correct. But is that also for 2 points? If you intercept a 2-point conversion and run it back for a score.
Yeah.
That's also 2 points. I believe it is.
Shane says, I left the Miracle at Jordan Hare. No, please tell me you're lying. Please tell me you're lying. You left the Miracle at Jordan Hare early?
No,
you're lying. There's no way. Oh my gosh. That
got a lot of you Tolos sending in your upset picks. You still got time to do that. 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. Give us your name, your game, and the spread. It's okay if you go on ESPN.com right now and find a spread that's a half a point or a point different from where it was Wednesday. We lock the spreads in as of Wednesday. So at that point, you're picking the game. You will get the points that were locked in as of 3 p.m. on Wednesday. Hookset says he wants great Tolo name. Hookset wants West Virginia over Penn State plus 8.5. I do believe officially at the time it was an 8-point spread. Just Jess gets in. She's taking Ohio plus 17.5 versus Syracuse. Shane Connick, you heard him on the show earlier. And actually, you're going to hear the replay of his chat with us coming up at 6 o'clock. He's taking Charlotte plus 8 versus James Madison. Man, how far is that program expected to fall? James Madison, they were humming at the tippy top level of a group of 5 program, just a lights out entry into FBS football, to now be just a touchdown favorite.
Sure.
A touchdown and a smidge against Charlotte.
That's tough. Diesel.
Charlotte's been awful for a long time.
They have. I don't know that I've ever read a text on this show that can compare to this one. 502 just texted in 1 minute ago and says, can't make this up, was at the Iron Bowl and missed kick 6 after I got a text from my wife telling me her water broke. I think that one is justified. I don't know. Is it? Is that justified?
Texter, we don't know your wife,
gosh.
obviously. I'm sure she's a fantastic lady. And I'm sure she's a fantastic mom and you're a fantastic dad. But we don't know if your wife is a hardcore Auburn fan, as I assume you are because you were at that game.
Wow.
Is your wife so hardcore of an Auburn fan that she would have understood?
Oh, my God. Diesel.
Is she mad at you for leaving? And obviously, you didn't know that was going to happen.
Yeah, you didn't know, but can you imagine having to explain to your son or your daughter one day, hey, you know what? I'm pissed off at you right now, and I'm going to tell you something. You made me miss a kick 6. You made me miss it, all because of you. That would be the worst one ever to miss, man. That would be brutal.
That's when you name your daughter 6.
Yeah, something. I mean, I think I would quit watching sport. That would be the worst day ever in sports history. Can you imagine the greatest comeback, the greatest kick that wasn't made ever happening, and you left early? Oh, Texter, I hate that for you. That is tough.
So we're talking moments that you've missed and leaving early, but let's transition this into the greatest seasons that your sports teams have ever had. I want to give you, the Tolos, a chance to reminisce and tell us, what is the greatest sports season your team has had in your lifetime? That's the caveat. Ooh. That's the key, and that's my opportunity to just kind of poke at Cole a little bit, twist the knife in just a little bit, because he is by far I think you're a bigger Dallas Cowboys fan than you are a Clemson Tiger fan, and you're a lifelong Clemson Tiger fan.
Yeah, I am. So, I get upset more when they lose. Yeah.
So so you haven't necessarily had a lot of Dallas Cowboys seasons to bring up in this conversation.
A lot. You mean any?
I mean, it's fun winning the division, right?
Yeah, it's fun winning the division and getting your butt kicked by Green Bay in the first round.
So, I mean, if I'm both an App State fan, obviously, and a Carolina Panthers fan. I know that's hard to believe given how much I dog the Carolina Panthers, but they deserve it, right? They deserve it at this point. They haven't done anything to win my love and admiration back. And see, I'm never one of those people that gives just blind loyalty to somebody that keeps kicking me, right? Like, I'm not going to stay with a woman who keeps kicking me in the nuts verbally and emotionally. So physically and emotionally, I'm not going to stay with that.
That's Cowboys. That's the line.
If things come back around, maybe I'll come back around to the team at that point. But if you're a Carolina Panthers fan, the only answer is that 2015 season, right? Where the Carolina Panthers went 15-1. We had Cam Newton. He was on top of the world. He was league MVP, offensive player of the year. They looked unbeatable that season until they faced Father Time. I mean, Peyton Manning, whose neck was seized up like an engine block that's been sitting in the river for 2 months. I mean, It was the last of the good times for the Carolina Panthers. I understand they made the playoffs again in 2017, but that was a phenomenal season to have it end in such a crushing way that it has to put just such a negative taste, a bad taste in your mouth about that season that it's got to be hard to get over.
And Cam didn't jump on the football.
And Cam didn't jump on the ball, right? That was the beginning of the end for Cam Newton.
Yeah. I hate to say it, but it was. It really was. That's tough. And no, to answer your question, I was born in July. The February before I was born is when the Cowboys won their last Super Bowl. I have yet to see a Cowboys Super Bowl, and I think I cursed it. I think I cursed the franchise. It's hopeless. It's tough. It's a great question, though. It's a good question. All right, Diesel, on the other side, we'll revisit. We did not get to a lot of the high school games tonight. We'll revisit that, give you the full slate of high school games going on in the Upstate tonight. Any questions you have, my thoughts, and more right here on The Fan Upstate.
Connect with Diesel and Cole Bryson on Wire to Wire. This is the Fan Upstate.
Cole, I know you want to get to some last-minute high school football talk before we get out to break, but we have a special call-in, a special drop-in from the Leprechaun of Lyman, who I believe might be here to make his upset pick, or who knows, it's his 2024 college football season debut. Leprechaun of Lyman, you're coming out of hibernation. How are you, pal? How you feeling going into Texas A&M?
This is the Leprechaun's agent. I
Oh.
just have to say a note. Quick. You know, I get paid to do this, and I tell you, the job is worth its weight in gold. The Leprechaun, you know, he may be in hibernation right now, but I have not been. And I just wanted to say this show has been awesome since Mark left. I've been listening to you guys every single day, and I've really enjoyed it. So shout out to you guys. All right. I'm going to go over and wake up the Leprechaun real quick. So just, all right. Hey, Leprechaun, it's time for you to wake up. What? Oh, this is football season. And Diesel. It's been far too long since we had some quality football. Woo-hoo! You love me or you hate me, but I don't really care. I've always got some smack talk and a poem to share. I'm back again, boys, with me Irish better than ever. You think we'll crumble and bend our knees? Ha! Never. We'll take on the second-rate Texas team. It's time to crush the Aggies. We'll paint a picture of destruction that couldn't be drawn by Moholy Nagy. Just a side note, apparently he's a Hungarian painter. I had to Google that rhyme. So be forewarned, Texas A&M. It's you will surely maim. It's an honor and a privilege to be kicked in the butt by that grand old Notre Dame. Woo-hoo!
Wow.
Oh, top notch as ever. Leprechaun.
Wow, is
of
all
Lyman.
I can say, man.
Might be the worst moment in Jim Rome's show history was running the Leprechaun of Lyman, not realizing true greatness when he had it right there on his airwaves. He ran the Leprechaun of Lyman. How dare you, Jim?
Is he gone? Did he leave?
Oh, he's gone.
There's no.
When he finishes, he hangs up the
drops
phone.
the mic.
He's gone.
There's
Yeah,
no
he
chance.
mic drops.
No chance he takes Notre Dame, right? In the upset picks challenge.
I do believe that. Yeah, I do believe that was his pick. I do believe he's gotten his pick in already.
DB said, "I bet he takes Notre Dame." Good hunch there, DB. Good hunch. Oh,
I don't think he makes a pick in the weeks that Notre Dame is a favorite.
Oh, well, that would make sense because he can't pick, right? He can only pick Notre Dame.
Right.
Speaking of picks, I made my week 1 picks for high school week 1. I know we don't have hardly any time left, but I'll get to quickly what I did last week, week 0. I went 19-7 last week in my high school picks. My week 1 predictions are up on the website, thefanupstate.com. You can also look on my Twitter page and Facebook, thefanupstate.com, or the Fan Upstate on Facebook, my Twitter, at the Cole Bryson, as well as at the Fan Upstate on Twitter, X, whatever you call it, for my picks. Some really good games tonight. I like Wren over Easley. I also see Greenville Riverside being a very good game that I'm not really sure that I'm going to pick this one right. I think Greenville Riverside is going to be one of the tougher ones to pick tonight. I do think Greenville Riverside will be high scoring. Both offenses will be able to put up some numbers. I don't know how good their defenses are. You saw Greenville last week give up a lot of points in the first half to Dorman. So that'll be a very interesting game tonight. I like Greenwood over Beaufort. I also like Hillcrest over Clover tonight. One of the bigger games in the area, probably the biggest in the upstate. Gaffney, JL Man tonight. You talk about a barn burner. Talk about a fascinating matchup potentially. I know a lot of people are high on J.O. Man, rightfully so. They're a very good team. However, I'll tell you this, I'm not picking J.O. Man to beat Gaffney. I like J.O. Man. I think they have a fantastic football coach. Scoot Watson's done an incredible job as the head football coach of J.O. Man. But Gaffney tonight, I think when you look at one-on-one play, I think Gaffney will win a lot of one-on-one battles tonight. And I like the Indians to come out victorious here in Greenville. or in Greenville where Diesel is. I'm in Irmo, but I think that will be a fantastic football game tonight. I don't see Boiling Springs Malden being close. I like Seneca over Woodmont. Unfortunately, I have Dorman going down tonight. They're at Grayson. Grayson's a really good team. I'll go Grayson over Dorman. Dutch Fork, Spartanburg. A texter earlier asked about Spartanburg and if I thought the Vikings had a chance to knock off Dutch Fork. Well, they did it last year. And if they could do it again this year, 2 years in a row, man, not many head coaches, not many teams can say they've beaten Dutch Fork back-to-back years with Tom Knotts as the head coach. That would be history in the making for the Spartanburg Vikings. I have Blue Ridge over Wade Hampton tonight, TR over Emerald. Woodruff Fountain Inn is going to be a fantastic football game. I'll go Woodruff over Fountain Inn. Clinton Lawrence, I'll take Clinton. I like Daniel tonight. Daniel Stratford was actually last night. I like BHP over Greer tonight. Crescent over Palmetto. I like Pendleton over Keenan. Christchurch, man, they had a tough week last week. I do believe Quinn Hatfield and Christchurch bounces back in week 1. I'll go Christchurch over Asheville School. Abbeville and Powdersville. Wow. Robert Muster and those guys at Powdersville. And by the way, Robert Muster, the head coach there, will join us tomorrow morning on the Saturday Scramble. They've got a tough one tonight with Abbeville. I like Mountain View Prep MVP over Southside Christian. And then a few more. I'll go St. Joe's over Chapman. That one should be a really good game. Broome over Chesney. And then I also like Fairfield Central over Union County. Those are week 1 picks. Let's hope I do better than I did last week. I think I'm at 70% or so, 19-7 in week 0. Diesel, those are my week 1 high school picks.
Good luck to you, Cole, tonight. Have yourself a great call.
I appreciate it.
Take about an hour to rest your voice just a little bit as you will be jumping right back on these airwaves 1 hour from right now to take over on the call of Burns at Irmo. Catch you back here on Monday, pal.
Tuesday.
Gosh, I almost forgot we have a day off. Wow.
Happy Labor Day.
Yeah, when we come back, our conversation